Will Ezran ban dark magic and the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow today on Dragon Prince Theory? The question of whether or not Ezran is going to ban dark magic is something that had never really occurred to me until it was suggested by one of you in the community. I don't remember which one of you guys ended up suggesting this idea for the video, but you know who you are, so whoever suggested this idea, just leave a comment below and I'll pin it. Unless, of course, like, all of you claim to be the person who suggested the video, then I wouldn't know what to do. But you guys wouldn't do that to me, right? But anywho, when I first read it, I was definitely intrigued by the question. Like I said before, it had never really occurred to me, but I think it could be a very interesting and complex issue for Ezran to face in the upcoming seasons. So, let's get right into this topic, starting with what we have seen of dark magic and how we understand its function in the world of the Dragon Prince. Dark magic is the practice of extracting the magical essence from magical creatures and exploiting it to cast spells. It's not surprising that the elves and dragons, both being magical creatures themselves, would find this kind of practice quite abhorrent. The elves and other magical creatures seem to be able to connect using magical sources by being born with a connection to the knowledge of how to use them within them. Humans, however, were forced to struggle more due to the fact that they, apparently, are not able to cast primal magic, as they are born without the knowledge of how to do so. That, of course, being the Arcanum. It's unclear exactly when and how humans came upon the secrets of dark magic, although it does seem that this is going to be explained in future seasons, as it's kind of been teased out a bit in the scene where Sol Regum and Deep Fried Dark Mage had their conversation in Season 3. The practice of dark magic, that is, killing animals to cast magical spells, is what ended up being the defining issue in the division of the continent, forcing all the humans to the west. The presence of dark magic in the show has been pretty limited, however. That is to say, we've only seen 2 characters in the present timeline who practice this dark art. That, of course, being High Mage Viren himself and his daughter and protege, Claudia. So if you're just going by what we have seen in the show, then it seems that the problem of dark magic has more or less been solved. The only 2 characters we've seen being the practitioners of it have now been more or less exiled from the kingdom of Catullus. But with the release of Tales of Xadia, it becomes quite clear that there are actually many dark magic practitioners all across the human kingdoms, many of whom are not within the borders of Catullus and therefore are not within the control of King Ezran himself. But more on that in just a little bit. There are a lot of questions raised at the end of the 3rd season about what human and Xadian relations will be. It definitely seems that by the act of the human princes bringing the lost heir, the Dragon Prince, back to his mother, that the war is now over. So I suspect that in the future seasons we will see a peace between the 2 lands. But I suspect there will be a lot of growing pains as the new world learns to move past a lot of its past prejudices on both sides. I also believe that there will be a lot of hard conditions laid down by the Dragon Queen herself, one of which is most definitely going to be the outright banning of the practice of dark magic, something that I believe King Ezran will definitely agree to, as he, like his mother, has a strong sensitivity for animals and other life forms. Funny enough, when I was doing some research for this video, I couldn't actually find any information about his opinions on dark magic. I don't believe it comes up in this series at all what his actual thoughts on dark magic are. Correct me if I'm wrong though, down in the comments if I missed something. We don't really even need an outright explanation of his opinions on it, because I believe it stands to reason, given what we know about him and his connection to animals, that he would most definitely not approve of the practice of killing them to cast magic. Especially now that with Callum, it is clear that there are other ways that humans can do magic. We have seen that he is willing to make the hard choices and not take shortcuts. We saw this when he was going to abdicate the throne in Season 3 in order to spare the lives of all the people who would have died in the battle against the other human kingdoms trying to pass through Cthulhu. So now that we've gone over what we know about dark magic and King Ezran's take on the whole thing, let's look at the reasons why he may be likely to ban the practice outright. And then we'll talk about a couple reasons about why he may not do it. Alrighty, so let's get right into the reasons why he might. Some of these we kind of touched on a little bit earlier, but now we're definitely going to flesh out some of these ideas. So one of the things that I think is going to be a given is that the Queen of the Dragons is going to more or less demand that the practice of dark magic is going to need to cease in order to maintain the newfound peace between the human kingdoms and 𝐳. After all, it was dark magic that was the reason that humans were banished from that side of the continent in the first place. So if lasting peace between the two nations is going to be possible, then the practice of dark magic is going to have to go. This, however, does present a few problems. Like I mentioned before, we have only seen 2 practitioners of the dark arts in the modern timeline. Those 2 are now, for all intents and purposes, dead and missing. And most importantly, they are no longer under the responsibility of King Ezran. So the problem might have already solved itself. We don't really know if there's any other practitioners of dark magic within the borders of Cthulhu. It is very likely that that will be revealed in seasons going forward, but we have not seen any of them so far. So if he is going to ban dark magic within the borders of his kingdom, then this problem might already be solved. But where the problem comes in is with the other kingdoms. If he holds another Summit of the Pentarchy, which I believe is very likely, he will probably give the conditions of the Dragon Queen to the other human rulers. He will probably explain to them that the practice of dark magic has to go, and it will be a very interesting thing to see how the others respond to such a request. We have to keep in mind that we don't know how important dark magic is to the daily infrastructure of the other kingdoms. We've seen dark magic be used to grow an extra supply of food, enough for 2 kingdoms. Who's to say that dark magic isn't being used to help improve and run their own kingdoms? Perhaps by banning it, it could be detrimental to the other kingdoms who rely on dark magic for some unforeseen way. For example, perhaps one of the kingdoms, like Durin, uses dark magic to grow crops in an otherwise harsh climate. Or perhaps the other kingdoms will simply be offended by the fact that the Dragon Queen, who until very recently was their enemy, is now making such strong and drastic demands of them. All of this would lead to some excellent drama and be a really intriguing conflict for Ezran. It would definitely give him something to do while he's on the throne, while Callum and Rayla are off doing more adventure stuff. I think the main reason that he's going to want to ban it is definitely because it's going to be demanded by the Dragon Queen. But I also think he probably will morally agree with it. We have seen how much he cares about animals, and I am certain that he would definitely be okay with getting rid of the practice of dark magic, even if it hasn't been explicitly said in the show. I think he would attempt to ban dark magic even if it was not requested of him by the Dragon Queen, and perhaps it will not be. I think that there's a lot of really interesting stuff going on here, and I think that it's going to be something that he's going to have to deal with in future seasons to come. The reasons he may not end up trying to ban dark magic everywhere is because of what I'd mentioned earlier. He simply does not control the other human kingdoms, and so he would not be able, within his own power, to ban this practice completely. I do believe he's very likely to attempt to ban it, but it's possible that it is instrumental in some way of life that we've not seen. We have seen how he is able to take complex moral situations and issues and find another solution. And that's one of the things that I really love about King Ezran, and I really wish we got to see more of it in the 3rd season. Hopefully we'll get to see more of him making these kind of hard choices in seasons going forward. He has earned a lot of potential as a character, and I can't wait to watch him grow from wide-eyed young man to wise king during the duration of the show. I think that after going over all this information, it does appear that this is stuff we are going to be seeing in the show going forward, something that the show is definitely going to address. The use of dark magic has been such a defining conflict for the humans and the magical creatures throughout the entire series, and even reaching deep into its own lore. It does seem clear to me that Ezran is not going to be very happy with the practice of dark magic, and neither will the Dragon Queen. So it will be a simple thing. Simply ban all the dark magic and problem solved. But I think like his decision to simply not go to war with 𝐳 in Season 3 had a lot of unexpected consequences, so will his decision to attempt to ban dark magic. But what do you guys think? Is this going to be a conflict, like it's going to be a major storyline in seasons going forward? Or is this going to be some kind of background detail that doesn't get a lot of screen time other than perhaps an offhanded line about how dark magic is now banned? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. If you liked the video, I have other theory videos. Check out this one about how, like, stuff. And this one, it has things in it as well. So check those out.